City Power is removing illegal cable connections in the Johannesburg suburb of Jeppestown. Now, this follows the deadly fire over the weekend that claimed 4 lives and injured 3 others. More than 200 people have been displaced. The cause of the blaze is being investigated. The Revenue Protection Team has disconnected and confiscated illegally wired cables at the burnt building. Thus far, aerial bundle cables worth 120,000 rand have been removed. It's suspected that the majority of properties in the area have been hijacked, providing services like water and electricity through illegal connections. City Power has dealt with over 120 cases of illegal connections across Johannesburg. All right, now joining us to discuss the Jeppestown fire and broader human settlements challenge in the inner city, we're joined by Siyabonga Mahlangu. He's General Secretary of Inner City Federation, as well as Angela Rivers, Johannesburg Property Owner and Managers Association General Manager. Good afternoon to the both of you. Thank you very much for joining us on The Full View. Gravely concerning that yet another hijacked building fire has claimed lives. Let's start with you, Mr. Mahlangu, as the Inner City Federation. Your reaction to this latest incident, almost a year after the Usindiso building fire?
Thank you for having me. The problem, it will always keep on arising. We'll see most buildings getting banned because there's a person or someone to be blamed all the time when something happens. Like in this incident of these buildings that are burning around the inner city. Obviously, we blame the city of Johannesburg because they are not proactive on performing their constitutional duties to make sure that the properties have access to adequate basic services.
Mm-hmm. Ms. Rivers, your reaction to just that accusation that the city is dragging its feet on this matter post the release of the Part 1 of the Kampepe report, and exactly what Mr. Mahlangu has also stated now, that perhaps there needs to be provision of basic services?
Absolutely. I mean, we're almost a year anniversary of the last fire, the last horrific fire. There have been a couple of fires in between, but no one has died in those fires, so they haven't really been that public. But you know, it's disappointing that the city did release a kind of a report on their plan for hijacked buildings in June this year, which I think it wasn't quick enough. And I'm concerned that now we have to wait for people to die in order for action to actually happen. Mm-hmm. And I'm challenging the new mayor to actually contact the private sector, not like the previous mayor who kept saying he will and he planned to and all the rest of it. We actually need action. We cannot carry on with just talking.
Mr. Mahlangu, I was listening a bit earlier on to MMC for Safety Mgcinitswaku, and he went on to indicate that at least on their part, they had gone on to identify all the uninhabitable buildings, and what was left now was for human settlements to do their part and ensure that there's alternative housing if they are to move these individuals. You've been helping the Kampepe Commission insofar as identifying those uninhabitable buildings. How many are there according to you thus far?
The ones that we have participated on is 101 buildings. And in these buildings, they are saying simple things, saying that the building is uninhabitable because there is no water, there is no fire. They are not speaking about structural sound. Mm-hmm. So it's something that can be fixed. And also, it tells us that the city of Johannesburg doesn't have a plan in place.
Mm-hmm. But then if it's an abandoned building, then if you are to connect the water, who will be responsible?
Okay. Let me put it in this way so that everyone can understand this. Irregardless of lawfulness being in an occupation, doesn't stop the city to provide basic services to the communities. To go beyond that, there is an ESP program in the city where they assess the individuals to see if they do qualify for free basic services or they have to pay for such.
Mm-hmm. Can I just interject there? Provision of basic services such as water and electricity are a constitutional right. But when you look at this, would it not encourage people to then identify more of these abandoned buildings and unfortunately eventually lose their lives? Because when we hear how they divided or demarcated this building is that they were using steel.
That won't give people a chance to do so. People are doing so because they are in a desperate position. If the city can make sure that they emphasize what is written in a constitution, where they're supposed to make sure and protect the right of individuals when it comes to access to housing. No one is going to die. If they can work together and make sure that these buildings are habitable, no one can die. People, they are willing to pay, but they are deprived to have access to basic services.
Angela, your views on this?
So for me, I mean, if we look at this building in particular, apparently it is owned by a private owner. And I deal with regularly private owners whose buildings are hijacked by desperate people. And generally what will happen is the owner will lose control of the building, either through a hijacking syndicate or people just really desperate moving in. The owner will apply for a level 2 disconnection of water and electricity because as Mr. Mahlangu said, you know, someone has to pay for it, and there has to be some, you know, well, as you said, someone has to pay for it. So the owner, because he's no longer collecting rent, he's not going to want to be held liable for the water usage and the electricity usage in a building. Once the level 3 disconnection happens, that's when we see incidents like this of fire, because an illegal reconnection is made either by stealing electricity from a building next door or from the closest power supply or power station, and water is stolen from the street. That water is it's non-revenue for the city. The city is losing out because no one is paying. You can say they want to pay, but then why haven't they gone to the city and opened up a council account for the building or made a negotiation with the building owner saying, we're desperate, we are willing to pay to be here. They're paying someone, they're paying building hijackers. The building hijackers are definitely not paying the utilities. We've seen that over and over again. And that is why we end up in these situations. This building in particular, if SAPS and City Power had done their job and done a building inspection, they would have seen that there was an illegal power connection and they should have done something to protect the people in the building.
But City Power says they constantly go, they disconnect, and then the individuals reconnect again. What would be a lasting solution here, Angela? Because when listening to the MMC for Safety, he went on to state that here it's about budgetary constraints, that if maybe human settlements had the budget, what could possibly happen could easily be contained to house these individuals, anything that would allow them to be provided with alternative housing immediately if they are to be evacuated from those buildings?
The solution is easy. The municipality and the provincial government own quite a few buildings in the inner city that are currently sitting empty. Those are opportunities to convert them into beautiful housing. It doesn't mean, I'm not a big fan of temporary housing. For me, and it's quite controversial, I know I get into a lot of trouble for saying this, but I don't believe in temporary housing. I think we need to find permanent housing for people. We cannot move them from these hijacked slum buildings into and just keep moving them around until they stop complaining. They need to have permanent homes. The solution is prepaid meters for everything. Put it, you know, you go to the building, they keep reconnecting, put a prepaid meter in. And then if anybody fiddles with it, you know, any of one of our members, if we so much as touch the city's infrastructure, we get 100,000 Rand fine and the police show up on our buildings. Why is everybody not treated the same? They should be fined, or they should put prepaid meters, or they should have some kind of conviction or something put against them because they're breaking the law.
Siyabonga, your take on that? Angela says if those residents wanted to actually pay for the services, they would have reached out to the city already, but they haven't done so. So perhaps there's no intention to do so.
They've got an intention, I can tell you, and there is the evidence. We've got, as ICF, we've got letters that we send through to the municipality, we send through to the mayor, even the presidentialist office. They know that the inner city residents, they are willing to do so. By proving that we're even taking the city to court for unlawfully disconnection to some of the properties, we even warn against them.
Siyabonga, thank you very much.
The residents, they are paying.
No, thank you very much to the both of you. Unfortunately, we have run out of time. That was Siyabonga Mahlangu, General Secretary of Inner City Federation, as well as Angela Rivers. She's Johannesburg Property Owners and Managers Association General Manager.